Here we are once again, and I'm going to talk to you about translation agencies today. A lot of people, I've noticed, wonder a lot about translation agencies, and it seems to be very opaque. People don't know how translation agencies work and what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, stuff like that. So I want to briefly go over some very broad concepts of translation agencies. I won't go into too much detail, but just briefly a couple things. First of all, I wanted to explain that, look, the translation industry is probably the most fragmented industry in the world. The main translation agencies are the big names that you'll hear about: RWS, Trados, Lionbridge, stuff like that. And they tend not to be very good to work for. In fact, pros.com has banned a lot of them, or a lot of their branches. You'll see they aren't allowed to post on pros.com anymore. Very often the smaller boutique agencies are a lot better to work for, and a lot better if you're a client as well, an end client, is to work with. But you'll find all shapes and colors. That's the thing. There's no standardized stuff. It's international and it's very, freelance. So you'll just find all forms. But having said that, let me clear up a couple things. First of all, an agency can never tell you that they cannot pay you because the end client has not paid them back yet. Okay? I want to keep that rule number one. If the agency owes you money, they owe you money. They cannot tell you, oh, the client hasn't paid me yet, and so I can't pay you. That's not how it works. Your contract is with the agency, and that's it. They take on the risk of the end client. They get paid more than you do, by the way. They get paid that extra margin because they take on that risk, and the project management and everything they do. They're supposed to earn it, and that's fine. But that means that they owe you for the work you did. Until they pay you, technically you have copyright over the translation you made. So it cannot be used even by the end client. And if the end client uses something and you haven't been paid and you see it on their website and it's not their fault, but it's the agency's fault, if you ask me, you can contact the end client. I would contact the agency first and say, I'm going to contact the end client because they're using my stuff illegally, just so you know, unless you pay me, and see what they say. But, and obviously before that, be very nice. I'm not going to get into how you get paid by an agency and all that, but I just wanted to mention this because this comes up very often, and it's used as an excuse so often, but they cannot use that. They haven't been paid, so they can't pay you yet. That should not be used. Another thing that people ask me is, do agencies work with other agencies? And is that legal? Is that moral? Stuff like that. And the answer is yeah. Like I said, it's so fragmented that if I'm an end client, I'm running a furniture business, and I know this translation agency, and I say, hey, can you translate my stuff? Maybe they can't deal with all my technical terms, but there is another agency that can, for translating it into Korean or Spanish or whatever. And so, they'll contact the other agency and work with them. And obviously this means that the end client is paying more. This agency takes a cut. The other agency takes a cut. And then there's the translator down below. A lot of people get mad at that. But on the other hand, as long as everyone agrees on the prices and the thing, then that's how it goes, really. And, there's not much you can do about it. And not necessarily that you want to do, because chances are the other agency would have never found them as a client in the first place had it not been for the people in the middle. So they're basically an intermediary, a middleman, but that's the way it goes. As long as everyone's kind of on the up and up, and they know the deal. Now, having said that, there are some weird things. Like I noticed when my agency started offering translations, like Italian to Chinese and Chinese to Italian without using English as an intermediary language, an agency I know back home started posting on their website that they offered that. And I was like, well, that's odd, because I know that agency and I didn't think they offered that. And I realized that they're just hiring me to offer that. And to me, it seemed odd that they would suddenly say, we offer this, but they're contacting me. It's one thing if someone contacts them specifically for that and then they use our agency as a middleman. But the fact that they say they can offer it and then use us for them seemed a bit off. On the other hand, again, what are you going to do? So I'm not going to go over their head to contact the end client, because you don't do that. If their marketing is better and they can get those end clients that I cannot, then the end client ends up paying more. They end up getting their cut, but I end up getting paid anyway, as do my translators. Hopefully that gives you an idea. Very broadly speaking, just a couple things about agencies. If you have other specific questions about agencies and how they work, feel free to let me know. Because I get all sorts of questions all the time, and usually the answer is it's very fragmented, so you find all shapes and colors. But use the blue board and use common sense, and hopefully it'll be okay. But that's it. I'll leave it at there for now, and otherwise I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye. Savidum.